You know what? One of the biggest questions that we had coming in, this is just small snapshot, was we don't have a lot of goaltending experience at the Division One level. But I thought the goalies showed themselves well. I thought our young guys played well. And so I guess it's like if you're one of the older guys, there's probably somebody chasing you a little bit, which I think competition, and I've spoken with our group already, I think I'm hoping we're going to have the depth that I think we have, because I thought different guys showed that were in jerseys that I hadn't seen on the back their name, and I'm hoping that ends up being something that we can rely upon.
Is this team closer to being what the group that you think it can be, the group that you want to be to define this team?
Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked multiple times, and even with other people in this room, you know, you talk about how do you build your team, and you start with your goaltending, and you know, Dubinsky, I thought he looked like a veteran out there, you know, and Ozzy, if it's in like an old shoe, you know, I mean, he confident, you know, and I'll say thank you, one, to his upbringing, but really the development in Youngstown and Coach Ward and what they did over the last 2 years with him. He came in and played confident, was comfortable, and so you talk goaltending, and then you talk your defensive core, and then you go down the middle of the rink. And when I was here my first year, we had a lot of experience down the middle of the rink. And this year we've got some newbies, and I thought the newbies showed themselves well, the young guys. So, like I said, they're going to have to be on a quick learning curve, because they're going to be put in a position because of their abilities and because of the number of freshmen that we have. The opportunity is going to be there for them, so hopefully they can take advantage of that.
Last year, well, first of all, Mark Stewart, Milwaukee Journal, just to reintroduce myself. So many close games, you know, last year. I guess I'm wondering, what are you hoping might put you over the top in those type of situations, you know, this year?
I'm hoping we can make a few more plays, and you know, we've got to look in the mirror. Like our overtime record wasn't what it needs to be if we get put into that position. We've got to be better 3-on-3, and it's something we're working on, and we're in process of new guys understanding what it is, where they've came from. They've played some 3-on-3, and so you know, hopefully we can put some of those young guys in a spot they can earn, so that we can be a little bit better in those situations. And then I think you've got to give one up less and score one more than you did a year ago. That's the difference between winning and losing, not only in the Big Ten, but I believe in college hockey. You saw today, just through our little inter squad, it's hard to score 5-on-5. And so we've addressed it, talked about it, and now we just need to go out and continue to get better at it.
Coach Adrian Banster with Channel 3. You know, Quinn really blossomed into one of the better players in the country last year. A, how valuable is he to this team? And B, you know, do you see him making even another jump this year?
Yeah, he's incredibly valuable for a multitude of reasons. He can impact a game like we were just talking, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, power play. He's starting to sprinkle in a little bit more. He's got a goal of trying to contribute a little bit more defensively on the penalty kill. And with his ability to skate and his hockey IQ, he's going to be logging a lot of minutes for us. And, you know, I think he's had a really good summer. I don't think anybody's going to put an expectation on Quinn other than Quinn. And, you know, we're hoping he can hit the ground running, because we're going to need him to, as well as a couple other guys that have been here and done that before. But be an example setter and be somebody that we can lean on from day one.
What do you feel like the identity of this group will be, maybe comparing to the first 2 years you've had here? Is there a different feel to it, or do you feel like it lines up with something you've had?
We're still in the process of creating and sustaining our identity. And with what we saw today, that's the first step. And now we've got a minimum amount of days between now when it drops for real. And I don't think that, you know, if you come out and you say, here's what we are, I think it's an uneducated statement. we've got to have a little bit more rubber on the road to see how guys deal with, even today, some success from the young guys. I thought Bruno, you can see the puck comes off his stick a little bit different than others. I thought Montgomery was consistent in, you were looking at it and saying, hey, he looks like he knows what he's doing. And not only that, his confidence in possessing a puck and making plays. So now, how do those two young guys take that? They walk out of here, they're feeling pretty good about it, and we've got to go right back to the basement tomorrow. And then you've probably got a few of the older guys that maybe didn't get on the score sheet or had something that they thought might show up a little bit more than it did, and it didn't. And I guarantee you they're going to have a little chip on their shoulder tomorrow morning at practice. And so that's the basis for us trying to create our identity and what we're going to be. I do think we're deeper from an ability to make plays. You saw that a little bit. Guys that were new didn't feel uncomfortable possessing a puck, staying over it. So going back to what we've talked about since day one, we want to be a team that possesses a puck. It's a lot more fun to watch. It's more fun if you ask the athletes that they want to play. They love having it, not so much when they don't. And so it's about really creating that balance. But I like the idea of what I saw offensively, and now we've got to understand that we have to grow on the other side of the puck also.
As far as your goaltenders go, I mean, do you envision, I mean, is there one guy that at this point that you envision is kind of, you know, taking the bull by the horns in terms of that position, or do you envision kind of, you know, rotating guys early? What's your strategy or philosophy?
Right now it's been a little bit of a unique 8 weeks in the summer, what we've been doing just recently when we've been able to get onto the rink, because we've had some bumps in the road. And what I mean by that is just medically. Daniel Hauser, you know, he's 100% cleared, and that's only been here in the last 3 weeks. So he's getting into his rhythm and getting into playing shape. I like where he's at right now. Pulver has showed himself well. He's been the one guy that has been around through the 8 weeks, the summer off ice, and then what we've been doing since we've got together. Really like what I'm seeing there. Castro's been dinged up a little bit. We had an incident in a skate where he collided with Zach Schultz, so he was out a little bit. So we haven't had all three of them together for an extended period of time, but I would say right now, if you're looking at Pulver and Hauser, they have probably separated from Castro, but it's not because Castro's play, it's been a little bit more of his availability. And so right now we've got all three of them available right now, and hopefully that'll continue to progress. But the two guys between Pulver and Hauser, those are the two guys that have kind of separated themselves. And then I would say that that's more of this than either this or this. I don't think anybody's too far ahead of the other one. Competition's been healthy.
First month of the season's been a totally setter in the last 2 years, one positively, one negatively. I guess, how much do you put an emphasis on that? You know, each game in this first month could mean an awful lot, and that you have to be dialed in for.
My father told me a long time ago, there's a reason everybody has to study history, and it's because you can learn from it. And what you just said, we benefited from our non-conference play, success or failure in the first year, and it stung us last year. It was almost like we were held underwater a little bit because of it. And so you address it, you talk about it, but as boring as this sounds, is we've got to get to our dailies. Learn from today, take the next step. And that's one thing when you say, you know, what do you like, or what is this compared to the other two? I do feel we've got a unified group in the idea of what their understanding is to what we have to do to get better every day. And that's been shown from our guys that have been here a while, and especially from our young guys. They've come in, and that mentality has been where we need it to be.
Coach Carl Witzer from Channel 27. You know, last season, when you look at it kind of as a whole, starting off, you know, kind of rough and then getting strike in season and then kind of rough. And you talk about these peaks and valleys. How do you kind of maintain consistency throughout the season and not let a rough stretch snowball?
I think a lot of it is the reset that you have on a daily and a weekly. Again, we've talked multiple times in our locker room about, when adversity hits, can you learn from it, and can you flush it and get right back to business the next day? And it's no different on the positive. You go through a weekend and you have a positive weekend, either as an individual or collectively, you better reset and get right back at it, because this league and all of college hockey, I think, the word parity, because of the goaltending position, is something that rears its head consistently every weekend throughout the season, and when you get into playoffs in the NCAA tournament. So for us, being consistent is building our days into our weeks, and that's where we're at right now. Learn from both sides, the successes and maybe the lack of success, apply it, and just continue to build that house from now until when we get to our first half, which will be in December. Put that in a can, talk about it, and make sure you get off to a good start in your second half.
Do anything differently, knowing out of that experience of last year, going back to, there's, one day you score 7 goals, and the next day you score 1. And it just felt like there was what can you do here? It just wasn't working. Was there anything that came out of that for you that was actionable, I guess, that you could say, we need to do something different here, or, help guys in different ways to make sure that that doesn't go up and down like that?
And I think there's so many nuances to our game on, does a puck go in or doesn't it? And the ones that are best prepared and do it most often are the ones that are most consistent at it. And I do believe we've got more guys on our ledger this year that have had that success and have been able to sustain it up until the time that the new guys have gotten here. They expect to succeed because they have before. And so it's about molding that with some of the scars that we went through last year. Guys showing up and doing something a little bit different this summer, which I want to give some guys credit, whether that's Tassie, whether that's Dick, whether that's Fitzgerald. And then seeing the new guys come in and they're wearing out the shooting room, because I come by here later than maybe 5, 6 o'clock on a given day, and you see 2 freshmen coming out of the shooting room because they just decided they needed a little bit more work. I'm hoping that some of those things that have changed, whether it is from experience at this level or from the idea of, hey, I've got to do everything that I can do to make sure I have an opportunity to play, I'm hoping all of those things contribute to us being more consistent that way offensively.
Logan Hensler, I'm just curious, what have you seen from him so far? What kind of stands out to you, in practice so far?
He's just got a high expectation for himself right now, and sometimes when that goes well, I think he kind of expects it, and when it doesn't, he's looking in the mirror right now and saying, okay, what do I need to do to be better? And he's talked about the defensive side. We're working on the idea of killing penalties, but I think one thing that Logan does naturally is I think he can get up into the play and be a real transitional type defenseman, one of the better guys in the league. And so we're going to need him to get to his game as quick as possible, but Logan's been Logan, and that he shows up to the rink with a smile and wants to go out and progress his game.
College hockey was different than it ever has before this year. I've seen the CHL players and things changing rapidly in that direction. We've seen where things have gone, places like Penn State making such a big buzz with the addition they did, and that Michigan State's brought in. Where do you guys feel like you fit in there? Where do you want your niche to be in the Big Ten, I guess, as goes forward?
I think we'll see. It's almost like going out and watching today. What happened today stuck to the tape, right? You got to go back and look at it. I don't think there's a perfect formula, and I don't believe there's anybody, and even if it is a McKenna at Penn State or the guys that are at Michigan State that you've referenced, I think that's going to be a work in progress. For us, what do we want to be? We want the right people in our program that understand that it is an honor to be able to pull that jersey over your shoulders and represent your family as well as our university and our state. And so that's first and foremost, combined with we need talented players that can go out and help us go in the right direction in the wins and loss column. they are intertwined. And so right now I can only express what my experience has been with Tolk and what my experience has been with Daniel Hauser. They're perfect fits for us. You know, now they get the opportunity to go and earn the chance to pull that jersey over their shoulders and represent their family and our program. And I've liked how they've set in and set themselves up for success. We will be a player in the CHL. We will be. Just from the sheer numbers of players that are within all three leagues, 60 plus teams, and what I've experienced so far with the two players that we have from CHL, they've been great additions. So I think you'll see that right out of the gate. I do. No matter if they crush it immediately or they hit a few bumps, they're guys that have experienced a lot of hockey in that league, and their expectation is no different whether they were in Calgary together, and when that lineup got posted where their name was going to be, that same expectation from them is when they're going to be playing for the red and white. So we will be involved in it consistently, but we want to find the right players that are the right fit for us.
You have the more underclassmen in this group than, you know, juniors and seniors. I guess I'm wondering, does that affect how you handle a team? How does how you kind of coach and run a team when you have a younger group? How does that change, if at all?
Started back this last summer when they came in for summer school, and you asked the group that had been here and are still here to embrace that group of young guys, the new guys, you know, the 8 freshmen and the 2 transfers, and they did that. We've got some unbelievable young men in our locker room that understand how fortunate they are to be at the University of Wisconsin. And so trying to get those guys up to speed, they put their arms around them and made sure that those 8 weeks were as productive as they could be, whether that was on the rink, in the weight room, or learning what it's like to be at Madison in the summer on campus and enjoying what they could do that way, as well as progressing the academic piece. So lean on your old guys, but also give your new guys room to show themselves. And those guys have done a really good job of that, all 8 of them. And as we mentioned with Dubinsky and Pulver, those 2 guys have come in and made themselves right at home. So I'm excited about the collective group. So we'll utilize the experience that we've had with the guys that are returning, but also I think in college hockey and all sports right now at the collegiate level, your freshmen have to come in and play. They've got to come in and make an impact, and especially when you've got 8 of them. I think you're going to see more often than not bigger classes of freshmen, just because of the opportunity that at the NHL level for guys to sign and leave early is growing on a yearly basis. And us being able to bring in the group that we have this year need to come in and really set the tone for what their career is going to be here.
Just gonna ask, do you think fans will notice a difference in games this year? I mean, if you didn't know that Oliver Talke and Hauser came from WHL, or you had McKenna coming from Medicine Hat, would people recognize a change without names on backs or anything like that?
I think people know it's really no different than us sitting in here. When you're watching something, you know what good looks like. And so to me, it's going to be, I feel that way already with the 2 young men that we have. They've come in, they're accomplished where they've been before, but they've come in and put their head down and gone to work. So it doesn't shock me knowing the human beings that we're dealing with, the work ethic that's been instilled, whether that was from their parents or coaching. We're benefiting from that because those guys have come in with, I'll say this, I don't think there's a bit of entitlement in either one of those young men. They look at this as an opportunity for them, they're excited about it, and they've gone to work from day one. And so the other guys, there's a reason some of these guys that we're talking about have either been drafted or projected to be drafted in the spots that we're talking about. First overall, top 10. They're guys that understand and have a drive that they want to get to the most elite level. So I think you're going to see that. Yeah, I think our league from top to bottom is going to be as difficult as it's ever been, and I think it's going to be as talented as it's ever been.